This program is provided by Universal Genesis.
Okay, let's start with a feeling that everyone, and I mean everyone, can relate to.
Right.
You look at the clock, an hour has gone by. If you were laughing with friends, totally lost in a project, it felt like, what, 5 minutes?
If you were lucky. And if you were stuck in a boring meeting.
Oh, that same 60 minutes feels like an entire afternoon.
Yeah.
We always just write that off, don't we? We say it's, subjective, just a trick of the mind.
But what if that feeling wasn't a trick at all? What if that deep personal sense of time's quality, its speed, was actually the core truth of reality?
That's a pretty wild thought.
It is. And it's the philosophical launchpad for the French thinker Henri Bergson. Our deep dive today is into his foundational work from 1889, Time and Free Will.
And this is where it gets really compelling for me. Bergson, who, let's not forget, won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1927.
Which is almost unheard of for a philosopher of his type.
Exactly. He didn't just want to redefine time. He used that to redefine freedom itself.
That's the whole game. He argued that our subjective sense of time, what he called durée réelle or real duration, is the only time that truly exists. And here's the hook. He claimed that our obsession with measuring time with clocks, like it's a ruler.
Like it's just a number.
Yes. That obsession is precisely why we've convinced ourselves, philosophically, psychologically, that we don't have free will.
As a massive claim.
Mm-hmm.
So our mission today is to follow that thread. We're going to get into what his philosophy actually says about all this, then look at where these ideas came from. And it's a surprise. It's a high school classroom, not some university tower.
And finally, we'll look at how his public speaking style, his whole persona, made him an intellectual superstar, but also, in a way, led to him being forgotten by the mainstream for a while.
Okay, so let's unpack this core idea. Bergson says modern science, and even psychology back then, made a huge catastrophic mistake. They treat time as, what was the term?
Temps homogene. Homogeneous time.
Homogeneous time. So why is treating time like space such a profound error?
Because it's the original sin of modern thought, as he sees it. When you treat time like a clock, you're treating it like a line in space. It's measurable.
Right. Divisible.
It's divisible into these neat, identical little seconds. And you can put 1 second next to another, and they're exactly the same. They have no character.
It's like a bookshelf where every single book is the same size, the same weight, and you don't care at all about the story that's inside.
That is a perfect analogy. But durée réelle, real duration, the time you actually experience, is nothing like that. It's totally different. For one, you can't divide it.
How so?
Well, you can't chop up your current conscious state into little pieces. It's a continuous flow. And second, and this is the really deep part, all the states in that flow, they mutually interpenetrate.
Wait, hold on. Mutually interpenetrate. Let's stay on that for a second.
Yeah.
What does that mean in practical terms? Is that saying that every single moment is carrying the entire weight of my past with it?
Precisely. Unlike on a clock, where 1 p.m. is totally separate from 2 p.m., in your real duration, your present self isn't just added to your past self, it organically grows out of it.
So you can never really have a new thought that isn't colored by everything that came before.
Never. That whole accumulating history is what makes your duration irreversible and completely unique to you. And that is why happy time flies. It's not a trick. The quality of that flow is just fundamentally different from the quality of the duration you spend being bored.
That concept is so clarifying, especially when you look at the examples he uses. We try to apply this quantitative thinking to everything, even feelings. The sources mention pain.
Yes, the pain example is brilliant.
We think of strong pain as just weak pain with the volume turned up.
Right.
Just more of it.
And Bergson says that is the core error of spatializing life. Strong pain isn't just weak pain amplified, it's a total qualitative shift.
A different thing entirely.
A different thing. When you go from a dull ache to a sharp, stabbing pain, your whole consciousness changes. Your focus, your muscles tensing up. It's a completely new state, not just a bigger version of the old one. Trying to measure that is like trying to measure a memory with a ruler.
So if that's true for an internal state like pain, what happens when we apply that same broken quantitative thinking to our most important internal moment, a free decision?
And that's the whole philosophical payoff. If measuring pain kills its quality, then measuring choice kills its freedom.
Because we define free will as a calculation.
Usually, yes. The
Okay.
standard view is I have reasons A, B, and C. I weigh them up, I do the math, and I pick the best one. It's quantitative.
Good classic pros and cons list.
Exactly. And Bergson says true decision is nothing like that. It's not a comparison of reasons. He says it's the moment when the entire personality tilts. The action doesn't come from a calculation, it just appears from the flow of your duration.
The whole of you all at once.
The whole of you. True freedom is the expression of your total accumulating life, not some bit of logic you perform in a single measurable instant.
Okay, but if a decision is just the entire personality tilting, isn't that just a fancy way of saying it's an irrational impulse? How do you separate true freedom from just, a random whim?
That's a fantastic question. Bergson would say an impulse is actually the calculation gone wrong. It's a shallow mechanical reaction. True freedom is the opposite. It's deep. It's rooted in that interpenetration of everything you are.
Oh, okay.
So when your personality tilts, it's your entire character expressing itself, not your logic system failing. The critics who look back and say, well, you had reasons A, B, and C, you should have chosen A, they're totally missing the point.
They're trying to find freedom inside the clock.
Exactly. And, as you put it so well, clock time contains no free will. By trying to measure it, you are actively destroying the very thing you're looking for. And what's so amazing is that this whole radical philosophy, this critique of science itself, wasn't born in some grand university post. It was born, for all intents and purposes, in a high school classroom.
Right. To really get why he was so obsessed with this gap between lived experience and the measurable world, you have to look at his biography. He was a superstar student that came out of the École Normale Supérieure, the ENS.
The absolute elite track in France. He was set for the very top.
But before he got there, he spent years as a philosophy and math teacher in these provincial lycées, high schools. And that period was the crucible where time and free will was really forged.
Think about what his job was every day. 1 hour, he's teaching geometry, physics, where time is just the letter T in an equation. It's pure measurement.
And the next hour,
He has to teach psychology, where freedom is taught as this simple balance scale, weighing choices, comparing reasons.
so he was being forced to teach two versions of reality that he knew, on a deep level, were completely wrong when it came to actual human life.
Every single day. Imagine teaching a kid the physics of momentum, describing a ball moving through a series of points in space. And then that same kid asks you about the feeling of making an effort, the inner struggle.
The equation works for the billiard ball, but it says nothing about what it feels like to be the person pushing it.
Exactly nothing. He saw that the explanations he was paid to give were spatializing human experience, gutting it of its reality. His doctoral thesis, Time and Free Will, was basically his philosophical rebellion against his own curriculum.
So even though it's technically this very formal academic document, a dissertation,
It doesn't feel like one.
no, it feels so immediate, so accessible.
And that's the genius of it. He never says, when I was teaching, I noticed. He avoids that. But the whole text is filled with these everyday relatable examples. Pain, effort, memory, how we rationalize things after we've already done them.
Things any student would recognize.
Instantly. The result is a text that's written by a total expert, but it feels like the most engaging, mind-blowing lecture you've ever attended.
And that natural talent for performance, for making these ideas feel urgent, it found the perfect home when he was appointed to the Collège de France in 1900. He was 41.
The Collège de France is absolutely key to his story. It's this incredible institution founded way back in 1530 with the specific mission to teach things that were not being taught at the Sorbonne.
It was about liberating knowledge.
Yes, that's the French ideology behind it. Knowledge as a public good, like the Great Encyclopedia Project.
And the system itself is designed to be open. It doesn't grant degrees, no real faculties, and the lectures are totally free. Anyone can walk in off the street.
Anyone, students, diplomats, housewives, whoever. It's state-funded, so the professors don't have to worry about university politics, but they do have to command the room. They have to earn that public attention.
And Bergson clearly did. His golden age, from about 1900 to 1914, he had massive crowds. People were being turned away at the door.
The institution was made for him. His whole style was based on rhetorical power, on clarity. He wasn't there to just read a paper. He had to perform.
It sounds less like a lecture hall and more like a theater for ideas.
A great way to put it. His style was all about rhythm over definition, metaphor over proof, conviction over dry argumentation. He wasn't trying to build some huge, airtight system like his German counterparts.
That's a huge contrast, isn't it? The German tradition of Hegel and these massive unified systems that take a lifetime to master.
A completely different intellectual culture. Bergson's style was perfectly French. It celebrated non-unification, non-reductive knowledge. The Collège de France was a stage for competing geniuses.
So you'd have the great mathematician Poincaré in one room.
The chemist Berthelot in another, and Bergson in a third, all presenting these brilliant but separate items of knowledge to the public.
So he was basically the performing encyclopedia entry for philosophy, standing right next to the top scientists and arguing with just as much authority that our lived experience, our inner world, demanded a whole new definition of time. When you describe it like that, the focus on accessibility, on daily life, on the aha moment, instead of some dense system, it sounds incredibly modern.
It really does.
He was like the original philosophical edutainment streamer, giving you knowledge you could actually feel, not just memorize.
And that core theme, the living person versus the mechanical clock, it resonated far beyond Paris. Which brings us to probably his most famous contemporary, someone tackling the exact same problem.
Good Charlie Chaplin.
Charlie Chaplin. Bergson's central critique, there is no free will inside the clock, is literally visually translated by Chaplin in modern time.
Right, from 1936.
Both men were looking at the same thing. Industrial mechanization, the standardization of human life to the rhythm of the machine.
Chaplin's tramp getting physically swallowed by the gears of the factory. I mean, that's the ultimate image of Bergson's point about time being spatialized, turning people into interchangeable parts.
It's the perfect visualization. And it connects to Bergson's other great work, his philosophy of laughter. He argues we laugh when something living starts acting like a machine, when it loses its flexibility.
So the comedy of the tramp trying to keep up with the conveyor belt.
It's funny because it's a living person being forced into a rigid, inhuman, mechanical motion. Laughter, for Bergson, becomes this essential human defense against the mechanization of life.
It's an amazing parallel. But for all this stardom, his public performance had a pretty short run. His great lecture era ended rather suddenly around age 55, right around 1914, 1915.
It did. He developed a chronic nervous illness, and it just made those long, improvisational, theatrical lectures impossible for him to deliver anymore.
So he was only at it for about 14 years.
Just about. And what's really telling is what he did next, the aesthetic of his retreat. He didn't just start giving weaker pre-written lectures. That would have felt mechanical. He didn't try to found a school of Bergsonism, which he would have seen as crude, as gauche.
He just stopped. He prioritized the beauty of the exit.
He absolutely did. It was like he was living his own philosophy. He refused to let his career be stretched out, to be spatialized just for the sake of staying in the public eye. Real duration isn't meant to be artificially extended past its qualitative peak. Hashtag outro. So while Bergson's public star faded, and he was definitely marginalized by the next wave of thinkers, the analytic philosophers, the post-Sartre structuralists, who all thought his work was too literary, too ambiguous.
Not systematic enough for them.
Right. But he never really went away. His problems are our problems. They're eternal.
And now he's seen as a classical reference point. He gets rescued all the time by people like Gilles Deleuze, and his ideas are crucial in consciousness studies, process philosophy.
Because his fundamental questions are still the ones we're asking. Can you reduce consciousness to a computer program? Is time really only what a clock measures? We still don't have the answers.
So that brings us back to you, the listener. What's the final takeaway from this deep dive?
I think the central message from Bergson is that the freedom you're looking for isn't found by analyzing your choices from the outside. It's not about that pros and cons list.
It's about reclaiming your internal sense of time, your own duration.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that moment when you're turning a rich, qualitative experience, deep work, time with someone you love, into just another quantitative block on your Google Calendar. And stopping yourself.
Realizing that the difference between a joyful flow and a dragging wait isn't just an illusion, it is reality.
The true genius of Bergson was realizing that freedom doesn't live in the clock. It lives in how deeply you are willing to let your own life flow, fighting that constant temptation to chop it up, to measure it, to control what is fundamentally a continuous and living thing.
This program is provided by Universal Genesis.